the Vols early national championship odds are out. Caleb, you're more the gambler. I'm sure there's some guy on a street corner that would take your money no matter what. But don't you have to be kind of in the top 25 or so teams to even get odds on a national title?
Typically, I mean, they go pretty deep. I mean, they pretty much name FanDuel's naming everybody. I mean, if you guys want to, you can get Jacksonville State at, I think it's plus $1 million. So, or maybe it's plus 100,000, excuse me. It's plus 100,000. So you bet $100, you win $100,000. You bet 1,000, you win $1 million. So
I bet what's going to happen is those lines are going to even in the years coming out, because I think football in general is going to have more parity at the college level. Okay, so the Vols' early national title odds are pretty impressive. So let's get to them. And it's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Andy Mason is fantastic with the best service, the best prices in the biz in real estate in East Tennessee. Andy is unbelievable, and there's just no decision to be made. Over 40 years of experience in his office, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. So Tennessee's title odds, give me a thumbnail sketch of where they stand compared to some other big name programs on the list.
Tennessee, if you factor in what is the best bet in a year, which is it's a combination of the likelihood of somebody doing something with how much the odds are against them, how good of odds you can get, because the longer the odds, the greater the payout. Tennessee is the best national title bet there is in college football, bar none, based on these odds.
Well, let's look at that, because I do think you're on to something. Now, I don't believe in betting futures because I think it ties up your money. Just in general, that's a gambling guru told me that one time, and I think that's pretty much correct. I think they're more for fun. But you got Georgia plus 450. So in other words, you bet $100, you win $450. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, because you're a gambling expert, Caleb. Alabama plus 550, Ohio State plus 700, Texas plus 900, Michigan plus 1,000, Oregon plus 1,200, LSU plus 1,200, Ole Miss plus 1,400. Wow. Florida State plus 1,800, Penn State plus 2,500, and Tennessee plus 2,500. Well, I'll tell you right now that Tennessee has a better chance of winning a national championship than Penn State.
Oh, yeah, they absolutely do. And I think they have a better chance of winning a national title than Florida State next year. I think Florida State will still be stuck in the ACC, and players aren't going to want to go there because they realize what happened this year. And I think Ole Miss, I don't see, even though I believe in Lane Kiffin as a coach and Ole Miss got all this talent, I think it's hard to get it all together. But Dave, that's just bet online. Tennessee is the best odds. Their odds are even better on FanDuel. And what I mean, or they're longer on FanDuel, meaning it's a better bet. Guess where they're ranked on FanDuel?
Lay it on me.
16th. They were 10th on Bet Online. They're 16th on FanDuel, and you can get them at plus 5,000 on FanDuel. Everybody you just named is ahead of them on FanDuel, but they also put Texas A&M ahead of Tennessee. They put Clemson ahead of Tennessee. They put USC ahead of Tennessee. They put Oklahoma ahead of Tennessee. And Tennessee shares odds with Washington, Missouri. With Washington and Missouri. Guys, jump all in on Tennessee plus 5,000 on FanDuel. I'm not saying they'll win it, but you're not going to get a better bet on futures odds than Tennessee on FanDuel right now.
No, and the fact that Tennessee's in the discussion says something, obviously. So
I think they're being disrespected. Honestly, I think Vegas
really at 5,000 or well, maybe not disrespected, maybe treated with a little bit of ignorance. Because
yes, Vegas doesn't disrespect.
Yeah, they just don't. There's no way to know the program 1 to 85. I will tell you this. Somebody told me what Vegas is doing nowadays is they're utilizing administrative staffers at various schools. So they're willing to pay them to get a little bit of information. And you remember when the Cooper Mays number moved? Why did it move? I think there are spies at almost every major school right now that are feeding information, but that's a whole different story. So where would you have put Tennessee? Plus 2,500, plus 5,000, plus 1,000? I think plus 2,500 seems about right to me.
I'm going plus 1,000. I would have gone plus 1,000. I've got Tennessee. Again, At the top, you always put Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State ahead of the rest of the field because in just terms of raw talent, every year, those three schools have more talent than every other school, right, Dave? You would agree with me on that, right?
Yes.
Georgia, Alabama. Yeah. So you always do Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State at the top. And then you would bet honestly, you should just bet the field versus one of those three teams. And you're usually more often than not are better off with one of those three teams, even with Ryan Day coaching Ohio State. But right after that, look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not so sure Tennessee shouldn't be in the same range as Michigan and Texas next year. This team is loaded. The schedule is very favorable. And in a 12-team playoff, I mean, we're talking the fact that Ole Miss has better odds than Tennessee. I'm sorry. I don't care who they added. Tennessee, gun to your head. You got to bet a mortgage. One team's going to be better next year. Who's going to be better, Ole Miss or Tennessee?
Yep. I would bet Tennessee. Ole Miss to me sounds like if you're going to gamble on them, you might as well just go get in my way while I'm trying to pay for gas at the convenience store and buy a lottery ticket. Because every year they're going to try to put together all these transfer portal guys and hope it works. And one year it might work and they might win 10 or 11 games like they've done. Another year, it might be 6 wins, Caleb. So to me, I would just go down to your local convenience store, your local IGA, because I have no idea. I would not be stunned if at some point Lane Kiffin did put together a serious national championship run. I would also not be stunned if he got fired after stumbling for 2 or 3 years. But I think he's grown as a coach. But I agree. I think Tennessee was set on the message board. I thought it was a good line. Travis says, Ole Miss is a sexy bet. It is a sexy bet. And but speaking of sexy, the images of Lane Kiffin's girlfriend leaking on social media.
I know I was going there. You said Lane Kiffin's grown as a coach, but the women he's interested in have not grown. He's got a pretty. I think he's got an age maximum, doesn't he?
No, I think they're getting ready for prom.
Yeah, yeah. What is it? You're too old to get the kids menu. Like Lane Kiffin's like too old. You're too old to date me. Sorry. But yes, I think that Tennessee on FanDuel plus 5,000 is just at 16th. Yeah, Vegas isn't disrespecting Tennessee. I don't know what they're missing, though, because this is just – how could they be that level of ignorant? You know what? A part of me thinks they're looking at Nico's stat line in the Citrus Bowl without watching the game and not realizing, Dave, that he was so much better than his stat line showed in the Citrus Bowl.
Right, which if you're Vegas, that's basically the most you can do immediately. I mean, all of these are bad bets if you ask bettors. Nobody bets a long term, so they just want to get as many people as possible on board. I would wonder, do you know what Tennessee's SEC odds are?
Those aren't out yet, I believe. But you can just go based on this. Who all's in the SEC next year? Georgia, Alabama, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Oklahoma. They're tied with Missouri for 8th among SEC teams on the national title odds. Now, let's be fair. Because of the 12-team playoff and because of the fact that so many at-large teams will get in, you could be lower among SEC teams on national title odds than you could be on SEC title odds, because SEC title odds are going to be based on just your strength of schedule in the SEC, because the SEC is not going to take that into account. So Tennessee's got a much better shot of winning the SEC next year than, say, Florida, not just because of talent, but because Florida's got the most brutal schedule I've ever seen for an SEC slate. And Greg Sankey's lying to us and is going to tell us that every single win in the SEC means the same thing next year. No, it doesn't. Not in a free division.
Florida's gone from being one of the best programs of my generation to feeling like a diabetic foot that needs to be lopped off. Maybe that's too graphic, but man, it just seems like they've slipped both on their end and the way they're viewed nationally and in the Southeast. We'll see what happens with that. So how many schools, I'm going to put this on you, Caleb, how many schools should have better odds than Tennessee to win a national championship? And go ahead and fill in the message board as well. Let's get your thoughts. And it's brought to you by our friend Don Self. Customer service still matters. Everybody's shopping for prices, but Don Self, with over 40 years of experience, has built their business and reputation on taking care of their customers. He is your State Farm agent in the greater Chattanooga area. Call 423-396-2126. Go to donself.net. Donself.net. It's right below. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here. What schools can argue it's a fact have a better chance of winning a national championship than Tennessee this year?
You mean next year? Because this year's not over technically, but yes.
I mean, I get in recruiting calendar stuff
Yes.
with national. You probably heard me reference 2023 as 2024 several times last year. Go ahead.
So, only 4. Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. They have better odds than everybody every year, and they should. And I'll give you Michigan, because Michigan, I think, is going to win the national title this year. You think they are too, and they probably have a decent factory of talent coming in and out now. Nobody else. Other schools can maybe be tied with Tennessee in odds. Nobody else should have better odds than Tennessee next year. I got Tennessee in my top 5 of odds. Guys, I'm really high on Tennessee next year. And Dave can vouch, I've been high on Tennessee for next year since the beginning of last year. And Josh Heupel is very high and is staking everything on 2024 for Tennessee.
Nope, I completely agree with that. So Sean says Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, then Tennessee. I think the common theme with Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and to some extent Oregon, I think those guys can overcome a key injury or two. I don't know that Tennessee can still do that. I mean, if Rue McCoy comes back 100% and he's the guy that dictates coverage and he gets hurt again, I think Ohio State has that type of guy to plug in. I don't think that Tennessee has that type of guy to plug in. Cooper Mays.
I agree. And that's where Michigan is on the list too. I think Michigan is at the point as a program now where they can plug guys in if someone goes down. It is debatable if Oregon can, because Oregon does depend heavily on their quarterback, whoever it is at the time. But, we'll just have to see how that goes.